Does the HIA foresee that CPD for licensed builders will be eventually and ultimately be introduced into Queensland?
In a word, yes, I do. So we've been involved this year as part of a working group organised and facilitated by the QBCC to look at developing a CPD framework for Queensland, and that framework has been given to the Minister. We've got an election at the end of October, so it's highly unlikely we'll see any announcements in the near future, and I certainly don't expect anything this year, and then depending on the outcome of the election, I'm not sure we'll see anything next year, but I do believe it's inevitable. It's been recommended by the federal government review as part of a mechanism to address failure in buildings and non-conforming products and all that sort of thing. And I think there's a role for it. It's, you know, as I said before, we work in this extremely complex regulatory environment, and you know, a lot of the guys that have come into the industry, they do a Cert 3 or a Cert 4, and they get a license from the QBCC, and then they sort of wander out and start operating a business. And in the background, the standards are changing, the legislation's changing, and you'd have to question whether they're staying up to date with what current practices are, even from the stance of how to run a business. We've talked about licensing requirements. I mean, you know, how do you stay up to date with what the licensing requirements are? Governments, as they do, want to introduce new legislation. How do you ensure that the industry is staying up to date with all that? So I do think that there is a role for it, and yes, I do think it's coming.